Hello and welcome to how to mix a ukulele for a funky pop track. My name is Ian and this is my YouTube channel, Turtley Studios, where I show my mixing process and some of my clients' work, although admittedly I am both client and mix engineer on this one because this is the band I play in. I'm the guitarist in this band, but the singer, Callum McIver, also plays the ukulele in this band, and this is his ukulele part that we're going to start mixing. I've made a little bus because we've got two parts that somewhat overlap. So I made a little bus, and I made the bus stereo, even though we're panning everything in 60 and making it mono. Reason because is it might be later on, I wish I made that bus stereo later on. If I do some playing with delays and reverbs later on, I might go, oh, I wish I made that bus stereo. But you can always collapse it into mono, a bit like this. Right, quick swig of my ginger tea. If you've been following my videos, first of all, thank you, but second of all, you've probably realised I like to drink a lot of ginger tea. At the moment we've got a completely blank EQ here, the Pro Q4 from FabFilter, and then same here, we've just got factory default on the Novatron by Kush Audio. My two favourite plugins ever. I love these plugins. I love the EQ because you can get proper tweaky with it. I love the Novatron because you don't have to get so tweaky with it. So clearly I'm an EQ fan. But here we go. Here is the ukulele part, and I'm going to go from the first verse, I think, here, and I'm just going to quickly play this part in solo. Here we go. Hey, there we go, CPU again, but hopefully you get the idea. So yeah, we've got a bit of picking there, a bit of finger picking, absolutely lovely, and then we're going into strumming as well with the ukulele. And you probably could also tell that there's a little bit of boxiness going on in the sound there. That's going to be something to sort out, I think, so that it doesn't muddy up the mix, but it's the sort of frequency that will get in the way of the vocal. And sort of thirdly, are we on? Or one of those 1Cs maybe. It's also just not going to cut through very well in the mix. If I unsolo it for a moment here, you'll be able to tell what I mean. So we need that to cut through quite a bit in the mix at the moment. Everything else is very dense. This probably needs to sit on top of all of that. In terms of the kind of frequency spectrum we've got going on here, we've got bass drum, bass guitar, snare, accordion, electric guitar, and then we want the ukulele to sit on top of all of that. So first of all, let's sort out this muffling. So I'm going to do cuts with the first EQ, then I'm going to compress, and then I'm going to do the boosts afterwards, so we don't get any issues going on with boosting into a compressor. Okay, so here we go. Let's start with a sort of shelf, and we're going to come up to about 100 Hertz, so we get rid of any kind of stomping sounds, any kind of sounds of stomping the foot, or you know, if he suddenly stops the strings from ringing out or anything like that, any kind of thumping noise, we're going to get rid of here, and we're going to make this a 20 something, I think, kind of quite a steep curve. Yeah, something like that. That sounds great. That'll look great. That'll be great. I kind of know that's going to sound great, even though I'm not listening to it while I'm doing it. And let's have a little listen at that point. Yeah, so we can bring that way up. We can bring that way up, can't we? Let's go all the way up here like this. There we go. So it just starts to take effect on some of that lower frequency stuff we've got going on. So just get that down 300 the best I can. Okay, cool. Alright then, so we're going to probably alter the Q on that as well, I think. So we're going to just sort of boost this up so that when we have that shelve off, it kind of sounds a bit natural. So we're kind of boosting that lower stuff, but then anything lower than that we're going to take off. So it's going to be probably about here. Sorry, did I say boosting? I meant cutting. Sorry about that. Okay. Next thing is we're going to have a look at some of these low mids. Now we might have dealt with some of it using this kind of slope here, this sort of sloping off, but we're also going to have a look at some of these low mids. Now I'm going to have a guess and say it's around 400 hertz to start with. But let's have a play and we'll find this thing. In fact, let's make a really big Q, whack the gain all the way up. There we go. So there you go, that's the thing we need to take out there. Yeah, we need to take that out there, don't we? Because it's that is what's kind of stopping the ukulele from really coming through and hearing it in the grand mix. Plus a couple of other tricks that I'll show you in another video. So, and just get that about there, I think, maybe slightly more. This probably looks tiny. There, like I've done barely any cutting, but we are on a massive graph here. In fact, maybe I could drop this down a little bit. There you go. So now you can see it's a little bit more of a cut than it first looks. And we're going to widen that Q a bit. Maybe a little bit further. Oh, sorry, wrong way. I reckon a little bit more, but not too much. There we go. So yeah, fantastic. Okay, now let's see if this is happening all the time. Is it always happening, or is it when it's switching from strumming to picking? Let's have a listen. Yeah, so it's sort of only really happening when we're plucking that very lower string. Anything Anything else is just kind of making the ukulele starting to sound a little bit on the thin side. So we're going to just do a dynamic like that. So we're just going to compress that one particular frequency. So when that one is really bad, probably when Callum, the ukulele player, picks that lower string on the ukulele, is when that starts to really take an effect. So here's the difference. Yeah, so it really is just when picking that lower string there. Okay, and that was probably a number of things. We used a valve condenser, a large diaphragm valve condenser, to record that ukulele, that we didn't end up using actually. Speaking about it, we actually ended up using the DI. I'll just double check that. Yeah, we did. We ended up using the DI straight out of the ukulele. So this was an electroacoustic ukulele, so you could plug a jack lead into it, and we ended up using that. But of course, as anyone that has ever played like one of these sort of electroacoustic instruments that you plug in, the bass can kind of sound a little bit artificial in that regard, and that's what's caused that there. Fun little side tangent. Callum actually insisted on us using the DI, and I said no, we'll use the mic. And when I played one after the other side by side, I actually found the DI was a little bit better in the mix. So don't tell Callum, but he was actually right on this occasion. Yeah, there we go. Who knew, right? Okay, so other couple of things that I'd like to take out is there is also something I'm hearing in this sort of 1K area. I'm going to say about there, something, give or take, is sort of sounding a little bit supermarket tannoy. Maybe if I just take that off for now, we have a listen. So there it is, and that's just making everything sound a little bit more boxy, a little bit more kind of not as polished as things could be. So we're going to take that out, about 2 dB, something like that. And there we go. A little bit more, I reckon. Yeah, that's about right. Okay, and we're going to just alter the Q on that. Going to just make it a little bit on the narrower side. There we go, that'll do. Okay, and that's just going to take out and deal with all of that cutting there, that kind of sort of real squawk that's occurring there. So let's just have a little listen so far with it on and with it off. So there we go. So you might start to think, well, hang on, you've made it really thin now. You've made it more of a brighter sound. Well, yes, if I take back to the beginning of the video where I was saying we want this to kind of sit right on the top. We've got an electric guitar sitting underneath this and an accordion sitting beneath that, and so on and so forth. So this is going to be the real top brightness stuff. There we go. Speaking of which, though, we also don't want this to be affected by the vocal. In that we don't want to lose all the air from the vocal. And I'm going to go about there, I reckon. Let's have a go with that. And I reckon the Q could be about a little bit more of a Q on that. So we're boosting at around 9, but then anything after 9 we really don't want. There we go, that'll do. And that's going to be, how many octaves shall we say? Yeah, I think we should go quite steep on that. Always pressing the wrong button on that. What do we reckon, about 20? Let's go with a 24. So that's going to boost up that 9k there to make it a bit brighter, but we're then going to say nothing after 9k, because this is sort of where a lot of the definition for your vocal, a surprising amount of your definition for your vocal actually is in this sort of air category of the EQ. So we are actually boosting that into a compressor in a moment, but hopefully it isn't too much of a dB, or I say dBQ, to then squash it back down. So there we go. So I think that's me happy with all the cuts. We'll just double check this so far. Pretty cool. I think this maybe should go down a little bit though, based on my ears. So let's bring this sort of this low shelf down a bit as we go. See where. There we go. So a little bit more of a how do I say, a little bit more body into the sound there, although that might come to bite us back when we unsolo. Alright then, so that is the amount of cutting I want to do for the moment. I'm sure when I do final number 7, definitely the one now file, I'll have made a few changes, but who knows. Comment below how many finals mixes you've done for a client or a project. Okay, so here is the compressor. So first things first, I'm going to push the signal into the compressor so that it makes the compressor work a little bit harder for that kind of analogy sound. So let's give that a go. Cool, and that's because as we've effectively turned up the ukulele in the mix, I'm now going to counteract that by doing a minus. There we go, so it should have no change in volume, but make the compressor work a bit harder, I think. So even with no compression, there is actually a slight change in tone there, funnily enough. Alright then, so I'm going to start compressing, I think. I reckon, yeah, let's have a play with this compressed style. Yeah, we go, fantastic. So I'm sort of looking for where the volume starts to boost a little bit on that. Alright then, because that's I know when it starts compressing. So the next bit then is we're going to play with the attack. Now I think we're close with 7. I reckon maybe a little bit later though on the attack. There we go. So we are actually shaving off a little bit of that sort of nail sound in there. So even though I'm sure Callum doesn't play ukulele with his nails, but it's the best way I can describe that kind of sound. So let's play with the release. I reckon we're going to want, we're probably close to 100, but maybe a little bit more of a release. Just because some of the notes sustain. Fantastic, yeah. And because we want this to be quite bright, generally as an instrument, quite the bright sounding thing, we're going to flip this over to airy. And I think that is everything I might want to do with the compression. Let's take it off, and I'll put it on halfway through. There we go, a little bit more punch to that ukulele. Who would have thought punchy ukulele? Okay, fantastic. So that is what we've got so far. And I'm going to quickly pour some ginger tea out of my teapot. There we go. And the next thing to do is we're going to boost. And like I say, we're going to probably boost sort of the frequencies that are going to make it sit right on the top, above everything, which you would think would probably be quite the higher frequencies as we've been taking out some of the 1Ks, but we never know. We'll find out as we go. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to this sort of 1K area. Now we took out a 1640 something, I think it was a 1644 we took out earlier, but we're actually going to maybe try and boost something slightly lower that didn't have such a kind of supermarket tannoy quality to it. Let's go for something like this, and I reckon we're going to want a wider cue than that, so we're going to want something like this. Yeah, about that size. We'll check it in a moment, but about that size. There we go. And I reckon we're going to want a bit more boost. And we're going to now just turn it off, play it, and put that frequency on as we go. Here we go. So there we go. So we've actually we've solidified the sound of the ukulele, but we've also brought out some of the sort of finger noises, the nicer finger noises, less of the nail sound and more of the flesh sound. So there we go. So the next next couple of frequencies I reckon I want to do, I want to try a 3 or 4K, because I think that will help solidify our tone as well. Just shuffling around here, but I'm going to have to be quite careful. I'm probably going to end up making them a dynamic, so it's around 3 or 4K I reckon will help give us that kind of brightness. It's a very troublesome frequency though to be boosting, often the one that you end up taking out most of the time. I reckon about there, and let's have a listen. and that helps really bring out some of that finger picking quality that we've got going on there. But of course, as soon as we get to the strumming, it's just a bit too brash, isn't it? So what we're going to do is I'm going to probably make the Q not quite as wide. Actually, sorry, I meant go the other way. Done that a couple of times recently. So we're actually going to make this quite a wide, one. Seriously wide, because that might help with making it less of a troublesome frequency. Let's try something like that. I'm going to have a listen to that in solo, I think. Yeah, so that'll really bring that definition out in the mix, but of course it's maybe not necessary all of the time. So I'm going to make this dynamic, and I'm going to go the other way with it. I'm going to bring this all the way down. So this looks quite drastic, but we want quite a broad boost. Generally speaking, with EQ, you're going to want the boosts to be quite broad and the cuts to be quite narrow with our Q, with our bandwidth. So we're going to go about that, because then maybe when the strumming kicks in, it will bring that right down. So let's have a try. So there we go, quite compressed. Sort of compressing that particular frequency's quite compressed now with that dynamic, but I'm quite liking it. I'm quite liking the sort of bounce to it it's got going on there. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try a sort of a higher thing, maybe like a 14 or a 16. Okay, even though we shelved it earlier. Let's see if we can maybe try some airiness, and it might involve going back and taking the cut out, but maybe it doesn't have to. I reckon let's try about a 15 for now. And again, this is another thing where we want to be careful not to have so much sort of airy topness in our EQ on the ukulele that it's actually going to get in the way of the vocal, which is why we took the cut out earlier. But we'll give this a go. We're going to try going up to about, let's try try about 2 dB. So go, yeah, we're going to go about there, and I reckon we're going to want a narrower EQ, ever so slightly narrower. There we go. Okay, so we're going to go for a boost about that, and I'm going to turn that off, and we're going to see if that's the right frequency that I'm looking for. So yeah, so that's the kind of effect we're going for, but I reckon it's a little bit higher, but it's that kind of idea of a bit more of a polished air room sound in there. So let's play it, and we're going to go higher, although admittedly I am a man in my mid-30s. I'm not sure how many of these things I'm actually perceiving, but there's quite an interesting psychoacoustic thing where the more you boost up here, the more it sounds like you've actually boosted this 1K one over here. So let's see if we can achieve that. Yeah, so there we go. So I'm definitely hearing something there that just makes it a little bit more polished sound. But like I say, we don't want it all the time. We don't want that frequency all the time being boosted. So we're going to take some of it out some of the time. Basically, when it gets too much of a boost, it's going to take some of that out. So let's have a try of that. So I'm going to first of all bypass the whole boosting EQ we've got going on. Yeah, great. So when we get into that strumming, those start to really take an effect, those dynamics. Okay, let's unsolo. Let's have all the plugins off. And we'll put them on one at a time and see how that affects our mix. Does it make the ukulele come out more into the sound? Do we need to change anything? Let's have a listen. Yeah, fantastic. I'm pretty happy with the way that sounds, although I do feel I need to play with the faders a little bit more now. But that will be for another time. Alright then, well that is how you mix a ukulele for a funky pop track. And as you can hear, the fan on my computer is going wild, so we're going to leave that there for now. I'm going to drink more of this ginger tea. And I want to thank you ever so much for tuning in. Hopefully this helps you if you ever find yourself having to mix a ukulele into a big track with lots going on. But yeah, thank you ever so much, and hopefully see you in the next one. Next video I've got planned is electric guitars. So how to mix funky electric guitars. So hopefully you enjoyed this video and you check out that next one and ones that came before it. And thank you ever so much. Feel free to subscribe and like and all of that sort of stuff. And if you're interested in having me mix one of your works, you can email me at ian@turtleleafstudios.com. And I'll put that in the description as well. Alright then, well thank you ever so much. And hopefully see you soon. Alright then, bye.